It's been a long time since I've done one, but here it is. Welcome everyone to Portal Stories Mel. Yep, it's been a while since my last Portal video, but I just felt like I needed to spice it up. This is an effort largely not to pigeonhole myself, as I mentioned in the Minecraft tour video and community post update, but like you guys read those, so I mentioned it here. This will be my last time I say it, I promise, but I know what you're all really here for. Portal Stories Mel is a well-known Portal mod that was released in June of 2015. Another interesting thing is that the soundtrack is actually co-written by Callaghan, also known as Harry 101 UK, an incredible animator and musician, and his talent really shines in the soundtrack of this game. I'll try to play the soundtrack in the background this time, but I also don't know if the copyright bots will smite me down, so if it doesn't end up being that way, well, you know what happened. This story is the tale of Mel, who is a subject for Aperture Labs in the 1950s. However, after a failed experiment, she is awakened decades into the future to fight her way through the facility and escape. But I know that you don't want a simple summary. We both know why you're here. So, without further ado, get a snack, maybe some water, and let's get into the incredible story of Mel. The game starts with the protagonist, Mel, on a rail line going through Aperture while Cave Johnson narrates messages to her about Aperture and her tests.
Science we can do in the meantime. You've been selected from a large group of candidates for a special test in our temporary testing areas. When the train arrives at the station, head into the town and into the Aperture building. Don't worry, you'll know where it is. You'll get some more pre-recorded messages once you're there. Now, get ready to do some science. For now, though, we're gonna put on some nice music for you. Enjoy the ride.
I know that his long-winded speech takes a while, but this introduction, as much of it is just telling you what's happening, fits pretty well into Portal. Whoever did Cave Johnson's voice did great with these lines, and the personality and delivery of all of his lines fit perfectly with the character as we know him. I just love it. I am also going to gush about this constantly, but the environment and the environmental storytelling in this area is just great. It's amazing to pass by the bustling test rooms and construction. There's also this town area you go up to with the tram and just, oh, I love it. It's so nice looking and weird, and it just fits something Cave Johnson would want to do. After going through that building, you can find an elevator that takes you down quite a way. During your elevator ride, Cave complains more about his engineers not wanting to meet his demands and shows off his under-construction testing sphere. This incredibly large and expensive sphere will be able to complete multiple tests, allowing for Aperture to build 90 of them and test anything they want. But this is still only one under construction. After our scenic and spiteful tour by Cave Johnson, he verbally ushers us to this beautiful cavern that will house our test. I know I said I'd stop gushing about environments, but this is just so nice. I love it. With the weird red mushrooms everywhere and the pretty lake and all this other stuff, it's just great. After going into the building, Mel enters the room in which her test will take place, and she enters the tube. That is until the character is awoken to the blaring sirens and red lights, signaling that maybe Cave's experiment didn't do so well. An ominous voice comes over the intercom trying to mimic some of Cave's phrases. He insistently reassures that it's still 1950s and that nothing has changed. The voice, whom we may meet later, guides us through this area and points us to a yellow device, our portal gun. Before moving forward, can we not just appreciate this incredible design? It's clearly made of scrap and just likely a casing from an old barrel and warning signals on half of it with a paperclip on the left arm on the end of the portal device. But doesn't it just look so cool? After moving through the once beautiful nature area we were once in, we make our way into some Aperture office spaces. The voice over the intercom insists that the damage is just earthquakes and that nothing significant has happened, even though our environment suggests otherwise. Through our exploration to try and find a way out of the decrepit offices, we find a new feature this mod adds: emancipation grills. For people. These grills are deadly to step through for the player, and sometimes objects too, but can be turned off or have objects thrown through in some cases. After managing to pass it and climb over many old gel pipes, we find our way into an area with a giant vault door. Opening it leads us to an elevator into the new test chambers we have to go through. Bravo Volta, the 5th testing track. Using some jumping gel and momentum, we can pass through the puzzle with relative ease, and we use a cube to open the next chamber. We also get this reassurance from the core.
Now everything about this test is lead-lined, according to my 1950s notes here in my 1950s filing cabinet. Says it's harmful to humans. Not harmful to humans. You'll be okay. Perfectly fine. Nothing to worry about. Oh, and don't worry about the boxes. We got a ton backstocked ready for this kind of thing. Thrown at the wall, destroyed, rinse and repeat. Useless little things. Made them in an hour.
There's also that ominous line about making all the cubes in an hour, possibly a nod to the event where I'm pretty sure GLaDOS killed everyone in the facility, and then also a nod to the theory of the companion cubes being humans. To solve this chamber, we just need to do some cube trickery to get them to resummon from the pressure pad and raise a platform to get up to the next section. After finishing the chamber, our friendly voice companion claims it's a good thing we didn't suffer any lead poisoning, but then completes a 180 remembering he has to be Cave Johnson. He then mentions the Nuremberg Olympics as a conversational detour. After going into the next chamber, the voice mentions how this chamber will be dealing with gels, but then realizes that he's supposed to convince Mel it's the 1950s, when the gel was an invention of the 70s. Meaning, at the bare minimum, Mel's been asleep for at least 20 years, but we already know it's been much, much longer. Using some propulsion gel and repulsion gel, as well as some slightly annoying corner peeking, we can pass this level with flying colors, quite literally. You may also be noticing this is different from my other Portal videos where I'm not explaining the chambers as much. I want to experiment to see if you guys like the more brief chamber explanations better. After our successful chamber jump, the voice who has been leading us breaks his impeccable Cave Johnson facade, knowing that we're not that stupid. He says how it's not the 1950s anymore and how everyone she knows is likely dead, and asks for her confidence in him to help them both escape. Completing this test using a bunch of Emancipation Grill evasion tactics and some propulsion jumping, you can grab the cube from the first bottom level and get it onto the button. I know that the details are weird, but if you'd eventually like to play the mod, I don't want to spoil everything for you. In the next test, we get some more information regarding the voice in the sky. He talks about how he apologizes for lying, but he really wanted to see you succeed.
So, about before, you can get why I said all that, right? I'd rather not have my one chance of escape have a panic attack and die on me after years of being suspended in a faulty relaxation vault. Which could be a real possibility, because as my records show, the old test could cause heart attacks after small exposure to the chemicals. And you were pumped full of them. So, let's all just take a breath and start over. My name's Virgil. I'm a core from up in the Enrichment Center. And before you even think of asking, yes, there is a building above you, and yes, I came from it. I'm not crazy. Don't be too alarmed, though. A lot's changed since you got put on ice.
Fun. Maybe I should review my contract with them. So now we know our friend in the sky, a core named Virgil. Anyway, going through the test, we need to do a balancing act between the different levels of the chamber to be able to properly get the propulsion gel and cubes between the different parts of the chamber. This also includes having to do this stupid jump, which I found a little annoying when I first tried it. After finishing the first part of the test, the second part is using the cube previously to hit buttons behind different Emancipation Grills, and activate some switches. After using some propulsion gel to get to a high up button, Virgil will point up to the direction of a pipe that should lead us to the next area. However, be careful since some of the goo below is corrosive to human skin. Good luck. Going up the tube leads us to some catwalks next to what looks like some office areas. After walking through one of them, the set of doors open into a large room. Virgil notifies us that if we can get past this area, we can find a path to the 4th test track, which is where he is. But we need to get past a turret shooting range first. One thing I did not mention earlier is these turrets. We've only seen them about 2 times before, but these guys are important, as they aren't any normal old turret. They're just old. They're from the 1950s, and don't have many of the same protocols, safeties, or systems as many of the new ones. That might be important later. Using some artificial acceleration, we can get to an elevated room that has a lever activating a speed gel pipe. This allows us to make it fast through the turret hall and avoid becoming Swiss Mel. Going past that, there is a large metal door that we're unable to open, which would get us to our destination quicker, but we can't open it, so Virgil complains about how some Olympian we must be to not be able to open a door. So he opens a separate door for us through the repulsion gel pumping station that we need to get through all these pipes to get to the Lima Whiskey testing track. Walking through the area to our next test, a pre-recorded audio clip warns,
The local zoo made an offer we couldn't refuse, so you may encounter several grizzly bears and/or lions in this next test.
Going into the next chamber room, the chamber is locked, and using some portal acceleration, you can just fling yourself over and past it. Going down, you can find an elevator to go up. With this elevator, Virgil apologizes for his insults and lies and says how we're in this together if either of us wants to be free. The next chamber, Virgil says how he has bad news and has no info on the sphere for testing and that there should be an exit after the third portion of the test. But he doesn't know because of out-of-date records. However, he reassured us by calling us his Olympian. Using a lot of speed gel and funny acceleration business, we can pass to the next portion of the test where Virgil notifies us something important.
Wait a second, I'm getting some strange voice coming through. I'll patch it through.
Scanning Lima Whiskey, 70% complete. No vital signs detected. Initiating flooding procedure.
That's coming up from new app. What the? My scans are going nuts. Something's happening. The sphere's unstable. Get out of here. Run!
Well, that's calming. Now we need to run for our lives. Luckily, it's at a pretty medium pace. After using a much larger scale bounce pad than last time, we make it to our elevator to go further up. After leaving our elevator... I swear I didn't touch anything. It was like that when I got here. Portaling our way past trouble and shimming along the rock face, we can make it to the next area. This area of destroyed office space has fire and broken glass galore, and you need to use some water to tame a few of the fires to get past it. After removing a box and walking to the next gel storage area, Virgil alerts us that the toxic ooze is rising through the facility and fast. All the sensors and precautions are maxed out, and we need to hustle quick. After making our way into the quality control center, Virgil tells us that we're close to meeting him, and that he's trying to slow the goo as much as possible. Anyway, we get a cube, we need to get past this blocked hallway using some gels and find our way into a next event to move forward. The next area, however, has its doors locked due to odd wiring. Pushing a lever leads to us being able to use the doors now, but a fire starts. Luckily, there's also a water pipe above the viewing platform we can use to dispel it. The next room has us use the gels to get up to a higher platform to open the giant vault door above us. Small problem. The hatch needs to override levers to open. Conveniently, there's walls next to both levers which we can portal to open them at the same time. After this incredible hatch opening animation, Virgil sends this little lift down for us where we can make our way towards the new enrichment center, getting us far away from the toxic ooze and one step closer to finding Virgil and our escape. Opening the door in front of us leads to an enormous dark cavernous facility. Virgil starts talking to us and how we may
Get around a few security fences though, trying to keep the giant human-eating rats out.
Human-eating what now? After trudging past the debris and trash around us, we can make it into what seems like a maintenance room as Virgil complains about being on the cold floor. Walking into the next room, we can hear him calling to us and find him in the debris pile in the corner. I actually quite like this design as a core. I just like the amber eye and his rusty-looking design. After flipping the power on like he said, we hear the blaring voice from before detecting a power surge where we just turned the power on, and now have to deal with the new threat, electrified water. After jumping on these desks, we can make our way back to Virgil. He explains to Mel how he understands they must be wondering how he controlled everything in the facility. Well, the answer is Wi-Fi. Yeah, like a woman practically frozen since the 50s for who knows how long can grasp the concept of Wi-Fi. Also, wait, how old is that facility? How was any of that Wi-Fi compatible? Suspension of disbelief, I guess. Making our way to the control center, we get Virgil a management rail so he can call us to an elevator, but the other robotic voice detects the override. It starts to detect an unregistered life form. but it states that there are 1 biological life form and 2 mechanical. It then starts to commence a flooding procedure, which doesn't sound good. After taking the elevator, we end up in Virgil's very own testing track. While he can't just outright tell us what to do, he goes through a checklist to see if anything had broken in his absence, and we hear this line.
And toxic goo drainage pipe. Eaten away by toxic corrosive goo. Oh, lovely. That's not important. You can do this test just fine. I hope. She couldn't get open a locked door.
Well, man, you couldn't get an elevator to go all the way up, so stop blaming me for everything. After getting the cubes on the buttons, we can use a helix bridge to get to the door and finish the test. On the next track, we can now hear the mysterious robot voice bellow how it is now assuming full control of the testing tracks and opens the door to expose the skeleton of the Aperture facility. Moving through this chamber and using a bunch of helix bridge magic, we can ascend to the next chamber. This one uses a light bridge and a ton of lasers that need to be disabled using a sliding cube to time it just right. Then you need to use the slanted light bridge from before to make your way across the gap to finish the test. Through the next 2 tests, Virgil and the voice give us some interesting dialogue throughout our testing. Virgil says he's trying to learn more about the biological scanning system and trying to figure out what that elusive third threat is, while the other voice keeps scanning and trying to track Mel. But we do now know that this third threat is apparently so dangerous that it warrants it breaking the toxic goo control to flood the facility. While Virgil tries to hack into its system, we hear it say that it's activating an Aegis mainframe. That could be what its name is. Oh well, we need to complete the test by using a light bridge to move cubes first. In the next room, Virgil explains how his plan is to flood the servers working in lowering the firewall, and that now he is working to get more control of the elevators. We just need to complete this helix test first. Completing the tests using these annoying shifting tunnels, we find that Virgil now has control in the elevators and the other system has temporarily lost us. If we move forward to an easier test, we can gain some more ground. After completing a very easy test, we can move through some back areas until we get to the new information from Virgil.
Alright, listen. I was able to hack into that system and run a basic diagnostic before I got booted. The computer is known as the Aperture Employee Guardian and Intrusion System, or Aegis for short. It looks to be a security mainframe, trying to protect the scientists logged into its system. It hasn't been turned on in decades. Maybe that's why it's after us, and whatever that last threat is. Maybe it thinks we killed the scientists.
Okay, cool. So to fix this issue of the Aegis system tracking us, Virgil suggests we go to the rundown, non-converted chambers that are overgrown with plants, so that it can't track us. Now I actually want to go on a side tangent regarding Aegis. So, as many diehard Portal fans know, Portal as a series has many connections to Greek and Roman mythology in a metaphorical sense. Stories such as Prometheus and the use of Tartarus as one of these shaft names has had them connected over and over by players. And at this point in the story, I got curious if our developer did something sneaky like that, and I'm glad I checked. From Greek origin, the word Aegis means shield, and Virgil actually has some interesting origins too. While it may be completely unrelated, the name Virgil actually has its origin from a Roman poet. While Virgil's name may be a coincidence, I'm almost certain Aegis is intentional. Anyway, mythological fanfare aside, Mel continues to go through the back ways of Aperture offices and maintenance tunnels, eventually leading us to a laser-locked door. Funny enough, we can loop back around to a window from the simple test from earlier and actually just steal that cube to plug in the hole and trudge forward. The next chamber requires us to use helix tunnels to go over and through these annoying emancipation grills, and eventually get to a laser directing cube, stacking on another cube to fire a laser at just the right spot and open the door to move forward. However, Aegis has different plans, leading to him vocally implementing a trap elevator. Luckily, this test is partially broken, so we can just walk on a transport tube outside the chamber and go up to a catwalk to go through more back ways. Going forward, there is a door we need to pass, but it's blocked by gates that need a test chamber to pass successfully. Virgil tells us that the test chambers need to be tested at least 3 times to be passable, as he makes a comment that some people must not be able to count further than 3. Wonder if that's a reference to anything. Anyway, guess what we have to do? Aegis and Virgil fight for control in this in-progress chamber by adding new random crap into it every time. It's not the most difficult, but we can see the power struggle Aegis is having fighting against our Wi-Fi compatible friend. We make our way past the chamber to an elevator that Virgil says should get us to the overgrown part of the facility. On our way there is stuff falling apart and crumbling as we pass, and there's beams and rubble blocking the way, so we need to jump out of the elevator early. Wait, did that just fall? Anyway, now that Aegis is blind to us on his sensors, we can move forward. Doing so, we end up in a security control room where Virgil is trying to guess the password for access and tells us that this section of the facility was abandoned after she filled the facility with neurotoxin gas. She being GLaDOS. After Virgil feels the pain of bureaucratic walls put onto the computers, Mel finds a panel that says admin override. Sorry, Virgil. The next test requires some Emancipation Grill magic to get past it, as Virgil explains how that toxic goo was sealed earlier is still continuing to rise. Well, crap. The next test requires some goo use and light bridges to move a cube to the end. But while doing that, Virgil explains how he found that there is a kill order from Aegis to flood the facility with that dangerous and corrosive goo to eliminate all threats, likely thinking that Mel and Virgil murdered the scientist since it was asleep for so long. The next tests are a bit tricky, so I don't actually feel like spoiling them for your sake if you choose to play the mod. But we find out that Aegis is recalibrating its systems to detect us in the Forgotten Chambers, so Virgil is trying to find a solution in the meantime of our testing. Eventually we make our way to a test that we can't solve, but luckily there's a surface that we can portal to a catwalk. I'd also like to say that I have mixed feelings about this chamber. It takes a lot of either staring at the elements to wonder why the hell it isn't working, or the perception to spot that there's a wall in the distance that's portalable. I don't know. I know it's my own stupidity, but I don't know how many others genuinely would have spotted it quickly. Anyway, we reconvene with Virgil's voice, and he tells us that we need to go through cube manufacturing to continue his Aegis relays as he retracted the biological scan. After making our way through tests that they subject these poor cubes to, we can make our way through the back office spaces. As much as I'd love to gush about their environmental storytelling, I have to limit myself to later. Next, we make our way past these huge metal sheets that they crush down into weighted cubes. And making our way past, we can find the large gray wall with blue text and symbols denoting Aegis Core Access. Well, now we're in the final stretch. Opening the door, we're met with complete darkness, as the power seems to be out in this first area. Luckily, Virgil is close by, and through the spots of decay in the walls, can act as a flashlight, and we get this line.
This reminds me of the day I ended up falling down into those junkyard offices. Dark room, no lights, hit the end of a management rail and down I went. Luckily I found you still alive. Careful, careful. There's a hole in the floor ahead.
Yep, I fell into the hole there. Not my greatest moment, but I felt I needed to show it as to why I dislike this area. This is an incredibly minor segment of the game, but a dark puzzle like this, based on Virgil's lines being delivered fast enough that you don't fall, wasn't helpful when I stepped in it, because it had more in me, but a little too late. A very minor complaint, but it's not an egregiously long section, so it didn't have much of a negative impact. However, this is immediately offset by the great environmental moment, where when we open the door it's only a crack and floods the darkness with red lights. Our final challenge. Moving through the elevator, we get into the center of Aegis' lair. As we descend, we get this nice speech from Virgil.
Look, Mel, I just wanted to say something. I couldn't have done any of this without your help. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be stuck down there in the junkyard offices. Probably my battery backup would have run out in a few days. So, thanks. So, let's get this done. Whatever happens, I believe in you. Really.
To get to Aegis to shut him down, Virgil informs us we need to complete the 3-step plan. Turn on the power, unlock the doors, and replace the turrets. Sounds simple enough. Moving through this lovely back office and past its turrets, we can make our way into the power room. To turn on both generators, we need to turn on the first, which will unlock the second. Turning on the first one opens a wall to a firing squad of turrets. Barreling through the broken glass, we can turn on the second generator to make them go away. This leads us to our next step, the security room. Passing these annoying little turret sections, we can make our way to the security room, only to find out that Aegis is diverting as much power as possible to turret production. Well, crap. In turret production, we need to change their programming so they won't shoot us. Problem is that they have a digitally stored template and target. So, what if we replace the target if we can't replace the template? After dashing past the testing range for turrets, we can make our way to a room where we replace the wooden human target with a wooden target of Aegis' server. How convenient that those just exist. Virgil makes us take a test of faith where we stand in front of the turret testing line to see if they won't fire back at us. Luckily, the replacement worked. With this, we can go through the last hall to Aegis' main room. Due to our update of the turret's programming, they won't shoot us since the turrets are in automatic update mode. Going through, we see Virgil and find there is an elevator that leads to an escape. But we need to shut down Aegis to pass it. With some motivational words from Virgil, we trudge forward. Aegis' room and design are amazing, but I'll gush about that when we're done fighting him. Aegis detects us in his quarantine control zone, as he calls it, and Virgil notes he must not know about the changes to the turrets. Going into the first room on the right side, there's a pool of water that short-circuited multiple servers, but we can portal onto the water pipe and climb to the other side to a turret station where we can find out one of our reprogrammed turrets and use it to destroy the Aegis server stations. This sets him off and makes him find the old turrets to utilize instead. Portaling back to the entrance, we can move into the left office where Aegis starts a 5-minute countdown for when he will deprive the room of all oxygen to asphyxiate Mel. Using some more of the turrets that the new system keeps pumping in, we can luckily continue on wreaking havoc to Aegis' servers. After destroying the ones on the first floor and the second floor room, we can propel ourselves to the second upstairs room. This allows us to throw the bad turrets out and use our new ones to destroy the last server. Destroying these last servers shuts down Aegis so that manual operation mode is an option. After portaling onto the Aegis core, we get this cutscene that I'll just let play.
That seems to be the user control interface. You can control its entire functions from here. I can walk you through some of what you need to do. First things first, stop the toxic goo from pumping up. We should be able to contain it in test shaft Lima Whiskey. Oh wait, Mel. Before shutting this thing down completely, remember that there was a third target it was trying to take out? Well, we're not three, unless you can tell me otherwise. Try to see what you can do. Type, ping, underscore, target, underscore, list. Am I reading this right? Was this thing trying to destroy her? It was targeting GLaDOS? Mel, what have we done? GLaDOS killed every scientist in this facility before being destroyed by a tenacious test subject. This thing, Aegis. It was trying to finish the job and flood the facility to destroy her. Mel, we might just have given GLaDOS a chance to get back in power. How could we have done that? Why didn't I see it sooner? Well, if you want to get out of here, now is your best chance. You don't want to be around when she comes back online. You should shut down Aegis now. Needs a passcode. It should be around here somewhere. Take a look around. $2056. I've seen that number around a lot in this place. Strange. It's done. It's done. Aegis is in its final shutdown sequence. Mel, come back to the lift. I can get you out of this facility.
Okay, Mel. The elevator is in lockdown until you put your portal device in the incinerator over there.
Mel, I just wanted to say something. Thank you. Thank you so much. Really, if it weren't for you, I would have drowned at the offices in the junkyard. I'm so sorry about lying to you in the beginning. It was a pretty bad Cave Johnson impression. Anyway, this thing should take you out of here, back to your normal life. Well, whatever you can call normal by this point. I don't know exactly what's out there, but it should be better than what's down here. So, just enjoy the rest of your life. Look, the elevator is here. See you later, Mel.
And that was just an amazing ending. I think that so many aspects of it were incredible when it came to things like the scene and the story and all those other things. Also, something I noticed in the credits, but Harry Callaghan is credited for voicing a Rainbow Core, which I didn't see in the game. I'll let the credits play while I talk, since I think the creators deserve the recognition for this game and beautiful credit sequence. I mean, seriously, just look at these animations and pretty artwork of the devs and animators credited. That is just some amazing extra personality that this adds to that many consider the most boring part of games. I just think that every Portal game that can even make their credits interesting have truly adapted the spirit of what a Portal game is. But after they play, we get this interesting little post-credit scene. And that, my friends, was Portal Stories Mel. This game was just an amazing Portal mod. I'd say a good mixture of story and ideas and environmental storytelling. Before I continue, I'd like to loop back to that Rainbow Core comment I mentioned earlier, but so I don't completely forget. This clip is from YouTube user Helluva47, where they saw the rainbow core.
Hello there, gorgeous. Might I say you're looking as beautiful as a rainbow.
Did you, by any chance, get that core's serial number? I'm asking for a friend. Yes, friend.
I just love that. There's also a surprising amount of actually really funny Easter eggs that this game has. I recommend this video by Casby26, I think, which shows a bunch of the cool Easter egg spots that I've never noticed in the game. Now I want to move on to the game itself. This game is just wonderful. My guess as to why is sheerly personality and passion. Valve games and mods and their communities have always been special compared to others, purely because of their personality and passion that fans have for their respective communities, even with all the limitations of Valve's software. TF2 has been alive and kicking for nearly 17 years, and we have the Fix TF2 movement as I'm recording this audio right now, which I hope works. TF2 is one of my favorite shooters. But purely because the community is so passionate and makes incredible SFM animations and maps and events, all with the archaic SFM and Hammer Editor software. I've used both of them, and I can confirm, I have a massive respect to anyone who can professionally use those systems. Through the limitations of SFM and Hammer Editor, many developers and animators suffer through limited and outdated software, yet manage to make some of the most incredible projects out there, Portal Stories Mel included. This game from the start displayed that it expresses its passion and skill in spades. The opening sequence, while slow and akin to the first Half-Life game, is still a great look into Aperture and their similarities. Doesn't matter which one plagiarized, you can compare a lot of Aperture and Black Mesa in these factors. I actually really liked how slow the first part of the game was, because it gave the developers space to add environmental storytelling on top of Cave Johnson's speech. Scientists hustling and bustling with posters talking about how androids can and will replace you, displaying the shift through history and Aperture. I also love Virgil as a companion. I feel like he was a well-written core that is great to test alongside. Some of his one-liners would make me laugh with how he reacts to things like minor inconveniences or his findings in people's emails like cat pictures and being able to increase your core size. I liked it. There's also his design. I felt it fit into Aperture while being unique enough to distinguish him. And only after finding out about the Easter eggs, I love the Rainbow Core's design. Yes, it was 2011. Yes, there's an openly flamboyant core, and no, I don't feel bad for finding that absolutely hysterical. Where was I? Yeah. The back offices of so many of the areas are filled with mundane details and machines, but they all fit in a way that makes the environment lived in. In Aegis's office rooms, there are just so many cool spots that look really nice offices. Like the one spot with turrets in Aegis's power center. I really think that the story had natural progression, and that it was very well written from the story aspect. Anyway, on to what I said earlier. Aegis's design. I love how his design looks similar to the Combine Advisor. He literally looks like if you squished the polygons of that thing and made it less fleshy. But that is not a comparison in a bad way. He kind of like an antithesis to GLaDOS. GLaDOS's design has her body curved downward, while Aegis is more so a turtle-like design with his head curved more into the defensive position. This displays his design philosophy of not attacking the player, but defending the facility from attackers. Whether this philosophy was on purpose or purely coincidental, I don't know, but it's still a great detail to me. I also like how this game largely moves between chambers and puzzles with the story. This story being the catwalks and backroom offices. We are moving through offices and back areas devoid of sensors and avoiding toxic rising ooze. I like this more exploration-based and avoiding the main track direction that developers went through. I thought that there were some parts that you really needed to suspend your disbelief, though. This Portal mod actually made me feel smart for once. I think it's just that I've been playing more Portal mods, so I've been starting to get better at them, and less reliant on the walkthroughs, but I still need them sometimes. But yeah, this mod is just amazing. I know I keep constantly saying that, but I highly recommend anyone who hasn't played the mod yet to give it a try. It's on Steam, it's free, and you don't need to do any File Explorer stupidity to install it. I know my commentary at the end has been redundant, but this labor of love was a great experience. The levels were of fair difficulty, the story flowed quite well, the environments were great among many other minor details. The game and other things I mentioned will be linked in the description, and I just absolutely loved this incredible game. I intend to probably check out Portal Revolution for the next Portal mod I do, I don't know. But for those of you who stay this long through the video, thank you. And here are some spoilers for my plans in the near future. I obviously intend to continue my new Tutorial World series, but with the new possibility of money from the channel, I have an expendable income to get other games and improve my audio. Actually, you can hopefully hear that now, as I'm using a pop filter. Although, due to my changing environment, I'm not in my closet where I usually am to record, so the conditions were already very different, but I hope that this pop filter at least helped a little bit, and I hope someone notices the difference, maybe? I don't know. Another thing is that there are still things on a list I want to get to, and hopefully start streaming at one point. I don't know, maybe someday. Anyway, the next mod I intend to check out is actually the whole Half-Life Tower 2. For those of you who don't know, in which I don't blame you, I actually covered the whole Half-Life Tower previously, but it was a long time ago, and not the best quality. However, I will do its sequel in this video style, and hopefully do it justice. Maybe someday remake the first video in this style. I don't know. As always, I need to cut my rant short. I'm thankful for all the recent support for these projects. Anyway, as always, I appreciate any comments, criticism, and suggestions. It's been me, Moosh. I'll see you later. Arrivederci.